Welcome to a very important video for my endeavors to spread deaf awareness. Here I'll be interviewing two couples, my parents and their friends from our local congregation. The ladies are profoundly deaf and the gentleman hearing. Please share the video to help me spread deaf awareness. Alright, so I need to introduce you first.
My name is Cynthia Scott.
She's my friend from church. I want to ask her a few questions about the deaf community and her experience. So in your workplace, do you feel included with your coworkers?
My coworkers were generally accepting. We wrote to each other, so we were able to communicate as well.
When did you first hear about cochlear implants?
Your mother had the cochlear implant when I met her.
What did you think about it?
I don't know.
Okay. So you were born deaf.
I was born profoundly deaf. My family found out through a screening test after the birth. Yes.
While you were growing up, did your family communicate with you very well?
No. My family didn't communicate as well as they should have. We were only writing to each other.
Did you go to public school?
It was a deaf school. I grew up in a school for the deaf. It was very good for me, and I graduated.
Did you ever have a situation where hearing people were prejudiced toward you, or maybe felt too sorry for you, or another situation like that?
No. People were nice to me.
Wow, you must have been pretty lucky then.
Thank you.
What are some advantages and disadvantages of living with a deaf wife?
Okay. Well, that was a question that when I first got to meet my wife, I didn't really consider whether she was deaf or not. That didn't play into the equation of me marrying her or not marrying her. It wasn't a consideration of, oh, she's deaf. So I have to think about that. Even though my family did raise that up. They said, how are you going to deal with these challenges? And to me, I never saw it as an obstacle or an impediment to my relationship. I just saw her, I loved her, I was able to communicate. That was the big thing for me. Was I going to be able to communicate or not? And so when we were getting to know each other, even without me knowing sign language, just writing, and she's able to vocalize, she can vocalize Spanish quite well. In other words, I could understand her. I didn't see that impeded us. Actually, our communication went quite well, even though I didn't know sign. So I would figure, well, as I got to know sign, then that's just going to get better. So at the beginning, I didn't consider those things to be an obstacle. What about you?
When me and Cynthia first met, I just got out of the Navy and I got hired by the VA. And I walked in the VA and she was there on the same shift I was on. And observing her for the first year or two, I realized she was smart. And then I began to realize, that the fact she was deaf wasn't an issue. And I realized she was a quality woman, which I had a hard time finding a quality woman at that age, 22, being ex-military. It was a pleasant surprise to me because they were either already married or they didn't want nothing to do with me. But she gave me a card, which I went to finish because we started out writing each other. And also I became a supervisor. I was a supervisor. After 2 years, I became a supervisor. So I was a supervisor for a while. And the relationship just grew and grew. And the thing about when she was in San Diego, she wasn't with her family. She had left Florida. All the family was in Florida. She was out here with another deaf friend. She came out here with their family.
Okay.
And so I didn't get to meet none of her family until after we got married, which was 3 or 4 years later. And they thought something was wrong with me because I married her. And that's how they treated me. It took a couple of years because they have an old school mentality. And the reason in my opinion, why she came to Florida, so she could grow up and become a woman. They pinned her. They wouldn't let her do anything. They kept too much control over her. So they said, I'm just going to go. And she went to California after San Diego.
Wow.
And so, which I felt takes a lot of guts to do that at that age.
Absolutely.
And
spoke about her character.
Right, and what she had to go through at home.
Yeah.
You know, the good thing about the Florida School for the Deaf is that it was away from home. And she learned independence. They taught her well how to be independent. That's what they had to make her. But the family never respected that, I don't think. And so that led to her just making that move to California, which is a blessing for me because I got to meet her.
Right.
And but that was tough for me the first couple of years. And plus, I'm quiet. I'm not that talkative. So getting to know them was a challenge. But then once they realized for short time I wasn't a knucklehead because we were only there for like a couple of weeks and we go back to California. So they never really got a chance. And they never came to California. So I never really got a chance to. It took a long time for them to realize that, man, I do have good sense. You're going to marry a good man. She's going to be taken care of. But it took a while to get that. What I considered their approval.
I see.
You made some really good points. Do you think the deaf community is included with the school or with the workplace? What do you think about that?
At 3rd grade, I was put into a hearing school. From 3rd to 12th grade. It was nice, and all the students wanted to get to know me and talk to me. And the teachers always tried to make sure I understood. There were no interpreters in grade school, but sometimes the students would work with the teachers to help me understand. Then, when I went to college, there were interpreters. I could understand normal sign language, but in college, I had to better educate myself on advanced ASL because there were deep topics in college. So I had to learn more ASL, but the students again were very nice and would always want to communicate with me. Finally, in the workplace, I was the only deaf employee there, but they communicated well with writing to me. As the only deaf person in my family would encourage me to get a cochlear implant when we all heard about it, but I didn't know much about it. I definitely wanted to be able to hear, but we waited. Fast forward to when I got married. Pedro's entire family was also hearing. And they encouraged me to get the implant as well. I was curious, and I was already used to hearing aids, so I got it. It was a very different experience. Hearing aids help with environmental noises. But it's almost like you can feel the sounds with a cochlear implant. I can't quite understand speech because I got the implant so late in life, but I can differentiate between higher and lower pitches. Cochlear implants help me with specific sounds a lot.
My right implant is still pretty new. It's been 8 months and I still can't really understand different frequencies but with the implant itself. But seeing that you were 33 years old and you got that first implant and you're still learning and getting better, that kind of gives me hope.
Yes, when I started out all those years ago, I couldn't even tell I was hearing things. After years of trying to practice, it got overwhelming. Even little sounds like rubbing your hands together were too much for me. I persevered, and now it's been 14 years, and I'm still getting a little better. For example, just recently as we were watching a movie, I could start to feel the emotion in the actress's voice, and it made me emotional, so I just wanted to take the implant off. That means I'm starting to be able to detect how a person is feeling through their voice. So I'm still making progress.
If there are any deaf people watching right now, would you recommend a cochlear implant now or tell them not to do it?
In my opinion, if you're an adult and considering an implant, you have to understand that it's a long, hard process. But try at least turning it on and listening to music. Music is the biggest difference from hearing aids, and you might enjoy it even in the first week. Go ahead and try it if you feel like it, but you don't have to. However, if you have a deaf child, I strongly encourage you to consider implanting your child as early as possible. You can see proof right in front of you in my son. He was implanted very early on, and people can't even tell that he's deaf. Try implanting your child at 10 months at the earliest. When he was 3 years old, he could speak so very clearly.
Yes, it took many years of speech therapy.
So, did you experience any discrimination from other people when you married your wife?
My family was a bit apprehensive, I guess for similar reasons. They didn't understand why I fell in love with somebody that was deaf, and it offended me a little bit, and to saying, well, why does that have to be something that you look at somebody different? I'm not doing it. I'm not considering it enough of a difference if I'm able to communicate. So I did experience that at the beginning from my family, but I guess from other people, no, I've never really experienced prejudice or looking at me different. But as our relationship grew, some of the challenges came later, like you said, in our relationship, because one of the things that hit me at first is in a social gathering, in a social environment, now I have to become the filter or the interpreter of everything that went on. And at first that was very, very challenging, because I'm not like you, I'm a quiet person. I'm not, front and center. I don't like that. But in order so that my wife could feel that she was participating in these social conversations, now I have to be there interpreting for that, and that kind of put me on the spot. And whenever I'm put on the spot, I don't feel comfortable. So I had to learn to break out from that, but that took a few years, and it really frustrated her that it took some time for me to do that automatically.
Right. My wife puts up with me. I've been promising her I was going to learn sign language. We've been married for 30-something years. Before that, we was together 5 years before that. But to her blessing, she stayed with me. Because like I said, we get in social situations. I'm trying to finish spell the right things down instead of being way efficient and learning the signs. so she can engage like she wants to engage. And but she put up with it all these years, and accepted me for my faults. And I've always been thankful for that. But then again, on the other side, when we go to her deaf functions, their school have a function, and we'll go down there. Then I'm on the other side. I'm the guy that let down when because I don't even feel. She's talked to her friend. I let her enjoy that experience with that. And they know I only finger spell, so they take the time out to finger spell the right stuff down. You know, to engage, to keep me engaged.
That's nice.
And but I love going to the, because it fascinates you. You see them as real people. You know,
Right.
you get this illusion that they're not real. There aren't that many out there. You know, because
Right.
you don't see them. They're all together, and you see them in the environment. Or go to have a function actually at the school, and all the students come back, and to see them engage is it's just like being in a regular school. Go to football games. I haven't been to basketball games, but we've been to like the homecoming for football games.
Okay.
And the two deaf schools, usually it's Maryland. We go down there. Father's playing Maryland, but it's
Those
all to come
should be
back.
fun to watch. I've never watched deaf
Yeah.
teams.
Oh yeah,
playing
you hear
with each other.
they be pounding each other.
Huh.
They be going at it. Yeah.
Interesting.
And they use a drum, a bass drum, for
Okay.
the count. You know,
Oh,
1, 2,
wow.
3, and so they go off on 2 or 3 on the count. But it's regular football. It's
Nice.
real. I mean, I was shocked how it's good typical high school football.
Huh.
They can play. I mean, it makes you realize how. I mean, I knew my wife was equal to any other woman. Most people think it's a handicap.
Right.
Something's wrong with you or something's wrong with her. You know, they can't function in the real world. And that's, I always took pleasure in watching her because when we met in San Diego, my job transferred me to Richmond, Virginia. So I took her to Richmond. Then up here to New York to Northport. But the people get to meet her and they realize how she really knew her job and could do it well, could perform just as well as anybody else. And it's good to see. Even my own family. Because they had their own discoveries when they thought, having a handicapped girl, something wrong with you?
Because you were taking advantage of somebody.
Yeah. You can't do no better than that. Yeah. But once they realized the quality in the woman,
Right.
that all changed. It all changed.
That's how my mom reacted. Once my mom met Clary, then she didn't say anything more after that. Once she met her and engaged her, then no more was said
Yeah.
on the subject.
And like I said, there's not that many quality women. Moms know.
Yeah.
Moms know there aren't that many quality women. You know, that you want to keep and bring home, that they're going to approve. I put it that way. And
This is probably going to be the best video I've ever made because you guys just made it. This is going to be a really good video to bring up the awareness for the deaf community, which I've been trying to do. So with that being said, do you have any additional things to say?
Guess what? I was a good sleeper before I was married. Well, before we had kids, I slept through anything. But something interesting happened in my biology. I guess I made up for what my wife couldn't do. Because automatically, I don't know, it was like a switch was turned. Automatically, all of a sudden, my sleep was light, and I heard everything. The kid, I guess, I knew I had to become aware because Clary wasn't aware. And so every time that Enoch would cry or Josiah would cry as a baby, I'd be like, "Hey, the kid is crying," and then forever my sleep patterns changed.
not with that also, but Cynthia also had a sense of, she would know when they were awake.
Oh, wow.
And I used to always fascinate me. How does she know when they're awake and they're in the crib over here? We're in the same room, but she can sense it and get up and I used to tell the boys, you never knew what a wet diaper was because if it was wet, she would change it.
Wow.
I mean, and that's what I realized how she was well trained as far as growing up, knowing what to do. And
Wow.
and when you live in the real world, you see moms that don't take care of their kids.
Right.
Kids are running around filthy, poopy diapers all day. I mean, when you see this constantly and you see someone like her that just do things the right way, keep the place clean, you appreciate it.
Yes.
There's a lot more women that aren't like that than there are that do. And it's a blessing that my kids got to experience it and they can see it. And their kids growing up, I mean, and their friends. The friends that don't have that type of come from parents that aren't
Trained, yeah.
trained or unwilling to do the right thing, to keep the household right or the kids correct.
Absolutely.
And their friends grew up in these cities, because I had my 2 boys, and they always come to our house to play basketball or sports. So they've always hit the neighborhood over at the house. And they got to appreciate it because they could see the quality in her and how she did things, how she kept things up. And and they all know her. She's got like a little protection. She ain't got to worry about anything in the name because they're all of my son's friends, besides my friends, and she's protected pretty much. So I don't have to worry that much about her when she's home alone because everybody knows her. You know, but it goes back to her training and the quality that she built in her life. Yeah, like I said, it's visible. Everyone can see it, and then people appreciate it.
Right. People know quality when they see.
Yeah.
I often sometimes even get asked, or people make a comment, "Oh, your wife drives? How can she drive?" And I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong with her seeing. You don't need to hear the drive. They do give licenses to deaf people, you know. That seems to be something that people get surprised about.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had anything to compare, like, because you had some deaf kids and you had all hearing kids. So I wonder if there's some sort of contrast. For example, if your kids maybe didn't give your mom as much attention or something that might have been different.
I'll put it to you this way. I had twins by another woman. And when they had their kids, and even my oldest or her oldest son, kids, they didn't grow up in New York, they didn't grow up around us. They're in South Alabama. My son's in Georgia, one's in North Carolina, and I was in Alabama, so we only got to see them a couple of weeks out of the year. I used to try to make it my mission to bring them up here for a year, or for a couple of weeks during the summer, to give them a break. They got sick and know. But when the kids came up there when they were little, 2 or 3, they didn't know how to react to symptoms. Because you can't hear. And it hurt her because she couldn't get that innocent, that unbiased love. Now my youngest son has 3 daughters. They grew up with her from a baby, and they treated her just like they did their babies. So there's that unconditional love. They can communicate with her. You know, she could be like her mother. My son's mother never leave her kids with anybody else but her. So she knows how well she takes care of them. She said she don't have to worry about nothing. You know, and then the grandkids, they love her. You know, but now the other grandkids, they're older now, and they see the quality. And so they gotten over the issues about dealing with a deaf grandma. But, you know, I used to feel bad for her because she never got that quality time. Because by the time they relaxed, they were gone. You know, and so that was really tough. So I was grateful that my youngest son stayed, where she could experience that and get it out of her system. Well, she won't never get out of her system. She loves little kids. She loves being a grandma.
Yeah, my wife loves little kids, and even some of the little kids in the church, like Naomi and Bethany, they don't have that bias or that prejudice. They'll run up to her. As they've gotten older, like Naomi, as she got older, it's interesting to see how they deal when they understand that Clary can't hear, but communicates with sign language. It's interesting to see them making that transition, although with my kids, they never really asked. You know, they just kind of grew up knowing, I guess, that was the case. And so there was never anything weird.
They know how to communicate.
Yeah.
I never taught any of my kids to speak stuff. She taught them. I see the grandkids, they know more signs than me.
Right.
They grow up with it. She taught them what to say and how to do it. And when they want something, they know how to get out of it. They can get it. They don't come to me and ask grandma out.
That goes to show you that prejudice is something that's learned. That's not innate.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of comparison and contrast between two couples with the same deaf-hearing combination, the husbands being hearing and the wives being deaf. We've seen different struggles, but we've also seen similar struggles. Just goes to show you what's behind the scenes, and it may not be what you expected. If you have a family of your own that is involved with the deaf community in some way, please tell your story in the comments. Let's start a discussion about deaf awareness with the hashtag DGAwareness. Again, please share the video around and be sure to subscribe for more deaf awareness content, as well as some goofy stuff with games and YTPs in the future. Thanks so much for 400 subscribers. Love you all, and I'll see you guys next time.